Hello, everybody. Peace and all that good stuff. Yeah, we're having another episode of Not a Linux Coffee with Not a Linux Guru Guy. That's me, Brett Koppel, is your host. And we're waiting for some people to jump on. We'll talk to people, talk about what we're doing, all that kind of stuff. I do have one announcement, sort of. Yeah, it's about my my setup. I can show you that later on, but also I have something I was going to talk about. I can't remember what it was. So yeah, I had let me think a second. I'm sure it'll remind me. I'll talk about something else maybe. Yeah. So at any rate, we've got coffee with an screw guy, and yeah, this might be my dementia starting to kick in. That kind of thing. Not really. No, I don't have any problem. I is people. Yeah, I guess you are people or something like this. I suppose, Peter. Well, welcome, Peter, and I'm sure other people pop in as soon as they get a hankering to do so. And APC UPS blow up? I don't think so. Not really. I didn't have that. Now, I've had one before, but not anything recently. So, yeah. But I was going to mention that it's an announcement. It's on the tip of my head. I'm trying to think what it was. I was going to talk about. Oh, yeah. I remember. I'll remember eventually, but yeah. The channel is hopefully going to get Zoom started up on here. But I got my son Jeremy helping me out on that. Next Wednesday, we're going to do a testing. So you may see me flash on or off for a period of time there. Now, if people show up, may actually have a show or something, impromptu show or something like that, out of the blue. Oh, you mentioned your power supply went boing bang. Yeah, well, your power supply, not mine, but yours, huh? I think I had one of those happen like about several years ago, and something like that. But anyway, so we're gonna test out the Zoom thing, and hopefully we'll get Zoom started. So far, it's looking pretty good on the upload and download speeds that are cooking on this right now. I may be able to squeeze it into my stream alright without too much trouble. Find out Wednesday, I guess, when I test out with my son Jeremy from San Antonio, Texas. He's in Central Time Zone, so I have to keep him in consideration as well. Yeah. So that's my little announcement there. Maybe by next Sunday we'll be able to do Zoom chats and we'll talk more about that. Options, possibilities for that. At any rate, let's see. I'm not sure if we got anybody else in here right now other than Peter. Your power supply went bang. When did that happen, Peter? Is this past week, I think? I remember you talking about it on Facebook. You did, didn't you? Earlier this week. Yeah. Yeah, it's bad news when power supplies go bang like that, don't they? It's something like. Yeah, I was trying to remember if I ever had a power supply go out specifically. I think I had one back several years ago. Oh, I remember I was talking about something similar but unrelated. Similar but unrelated type thing. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that now, and I remember my mind starting to remember what you're talking about there. And I think that was like my situation. I remember what I was thinking about at the time. I think I was thinking about when I had stuff spilled on my keyboard. I had to do a transplant of my hard drive into another machine. That was fun. I wasn't sure I was gonna do that. Yeah. Now I found out just recently. I didn't know this. If otherwise, I might have tried to see if I could get a job there. But yeah, I found out System 76 headquarters is here in Denver. Who thunk it? Found that out when I was watching one of the other YouTubers talk about going to System 76 busy in Denver. I said Denver, so I checked up on the map. There it was, just like that. It's right up about just off I-70 apparently, just a little east or west of 240. Yeah, I know liquids and laptops do not mix, that's for sure. Yeah, I had kind of fried my keyboard. Now I probably could have gotten away with just doing a keyboard connection like I had to do before, but I was one. But I had. I'll tell you the story about this a little bit. It's kind of interesting in a way, but I had this laptop of my son's. He had gotten it back in the day, and he abandoned it at some point, and I had it sitting over there. Part of the problem was the hard drive was toast; it wouldn't boot up anymore. So I put it on my stack, waiting to do something with it, and then I forgot all about it. It sat there for like a year or more, 2 years or something, before I remember or something. Said, didn't I have a laptop over here? So I went over there and looked. Sure enough, there was a laptop. So I said, oh, so I tried to reboot up, and oh yeah, it's got a fried boot sector or something. His hard disk was shot. I thought to myself, might be able to just replace a hard drive and install a system on here and go for it. So I did. And then, lo and behold, it worked. And I installed a system on it, and everything was fine and dandy for a while. I think it's when I had a Ubuntu on for so long. And I had a 2 terabyte hard drive on that thing too. It was the first time I ever had that much room on the disk. So I was rolling along with that, and then some spill happened. I hit over some glass. It was in a bad spot or something. Wasn't thinking or something like that. And it wouldn't work anymore. So I thought, well, gosh, because I had my whole history on that hard drive. I mean, I've got stuff on this hard drive back from when I was 1996, 94, when I was pastoring. I've got all sorts of sermons, notes, and stuff like that on there. Things like that, just all old stuff. I mean, a lot of old stuff on there. Pictures and all stuff. I had all stuff on there. Now, I didn't have a backup of it at the time. That's what was aggravating about it, and I've probably rectified that since then. But at any rate, I didn't have a backup of it, so everything was on that hard drive that I had. So I was, the other laptop I had that I used to run, I put on his because I thought it was faster and stuff. Then I took my laptop that I had, that I used to use it on, and I thought, so I researched it, found out that Linux is something you can just transplant to another computer. Yeah, I was pastoring for pastored like 3.5 years total, but I've got a BS degree, BS degree, and Bachelor of Arts, BA degree, in religion, theology, that kind of thing, from Southern Nazarene University, actually. And so, yeah. Anyway, that's a story for another time, I guess. Anyway, I had this thing I was cooking, And I thought, well, I researched it, found out you could do transplant over. The only problem is that the computer I had it on was a BIOS computer. And the computer that I was going to put it on was a UEFI computer. Yeah. So what I had to do was I had to go in and reduce the partition size down on the main thing. That's where you could have potential data loss and stuff like that. And then, so you create a UEFI folder. And then I did all the stuff, and then I took it out of the old computer and put it in the new computer. And I crossed my fingers and hope it was still all there and everything. Put it up just fine, just like it was on the old computer. I was yeah, you did it, yay! That kind of thing. One of my early victories on when I was real interested on that. So, yeah. So anyway, that's my interesting story on that front. Took me a lot of research to figure that out, though. Figure out how to do all that. But it worked, and it was my first experience. I had to transfer my Ubuntu over to my old computer, and then it worked on that just fine. And we're in that for like several years before I got a new computer and said, maybe I should install something different on this one. So I did. Yeah. So that's my little story I was thinking about that I was mentioning to you. I believe that my little near disaster destroy come this close about 2 or 3 times to losing everything on my hard drive. I have this backup system I have on there, which I need to run it again though, but yeah. So at any rate, today's topic is Linux workflows. What I was thinking about that was what kind of workflows do you use or you think you use on your Linux as system to do things. Like I'll give some examples of mine. One of the interesting things is that I'm going to go over my awesome Windows settings again because I've changed them up a bit here. And yeah, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Yeah, there I am. Let's move this over here. Yeah, here's my Linux desktop for my awesome window manager. See all these fancy power things up here? And I've added a couple that were in the, what I did was so I basically took my config file from Arco Linux's system on this computer, and I transported it over to this computer, put it on this Neptune OS desktop. You still have to tell me about your Neptune OS situation, Peter, how that's working out for you. And then I went through, I had to go through the auto start section of the rc.lua file and tell it what not to run, that kind of thing, because obviously all the programs Arcolinux had on this are not necessarily on this one. They had this stuff on here set up this way, wouldn't work on that one. So anyway, I had to adjust that. Then I also had to adjust a couple of other things. I might remember those when we go through the config file. But then, so I got that cooking. Now, the bar here up here, which comes with this, yeah, I set it so that I added this this here, which is the temperature of the floor, and I asked to add this weather thing. Those are fun to figure out, but I figured them out. Yeah, now if you twist this upon this little thing up there, it gives you a little forecast. Right now it says it's 81 degrees here. There's a high of 80, but it should have 81 before. And this gives you your core temperature, 69.5 degrees centigrade is what my core is operating at right now. A little warm for it, but not too hot apparently. Those two added in. Now I'll have to go through later and tell you how I did that. Now I'll just fix this one today, this earlier or today. I have that one set up. Yeah. So I figured I'd show now the workflow in here. See, now the good thing about this whole setup up here is that when I run my live stream, you can see right up here how much downloads, uploads, and download speeds I have. This is 13.2 megabytes per second download speed and 293.8 megabytes per second of upload speed. I think when I ran the speed test, I think this was like 600 was the maximum I could have on my internet connection. Plus, I think download was 5,500, which means I got some room to play with. So maybe I can do Zoom on this. We'll find out. I should try Zoom all by itself sometime and see what their upload speeds are, and then see if it'll tap it out too far or something like that. Be smart to do. So yeah, it's saying around 300 or less on the upload speeds. Turns out another 300 to play with. So that worked. And so that's how I've got set up over here. Now I can also watch my core temperature. My CPU percentage over here is 80%, 28%, 60%, 45%. Here's my memory here. It's volume here. And then it shows I'm plugged into AC on my laptop. And I got my date and time. I had to format this way I wanted to look. This PM because it comes out, defaults to 24-hour time clock in Arco Linux, and it has a month spelled out, and it has a day before the month, and doesn't have a year on it. So I switched up how I wanted to look, that kind of thing. Then I have this little, that's the layout icon. I don't know how I can't seem to make any bigger. That's one thing I haven't figured out on this system, is how to make that bigger. So I'll show you how to set up the information bar. Just un momento, por favor. Yeah, well, let's go. I guess we might as well go to it and look at that, and I'll show what I did. Now, this is like Arco Linux's bar that comes in one of its themes on there, Power Arrow Blue theme. And so, yeah, I didn't actually create this, but I'll show you what they did. Maybe you can do something similar if you want to type it all in, or you can just go to get it off for Arco Linux, install a virtual machine, and you know, do that kind of thing, transport it into your bar kind of thing. So I also like this background. It's kind of nice, I think, especially in the middle of summer. Coolness. So anyway, we'll take off and look at this stuff here, right? Okie dokie. Now, go to our awesome directory. Now, this had auto start here, but I don't think there's much in it, or something like that. Because I think most auto starts in, I don't know. I think they don't, yeah, they have auto starts. So let's check it out real quick. And all the key bindings are in the .lua file, but rc.lua file. Yeah. So here you have this. Now I figured out that this I didn't have to have I had this set differently on here. I had radio on like I had last time, but this I have network manager command line connection up couple fam. That's all you have to do. Once you've had it set, all you have to enter in. So you can set it manually and then enter that in to set it up on startup when it starts up that. Of course, use your own ID. You want to use couple fam, you probably won't link that unless you set yours to the same thing. Why would you do that, right? So whatever your ID is for your internet connection. Showed you some of this output last time, all that. Start Power Manager and then start 2dev. Now, found out that this some I've added since last week. Found out that if I want to automatically show my if I automatically want to show my USB connections when I plug them in and take them out, I need to have that cooking in system control. I need to start it. Now it wouldn't let me do a systemd enable on it, so I just have it sitting here to start it every time it cooks up, so that way it takes care of that stuff. Yeah. So pretty cool, I think. I pretty much nixed out everything else. Since I won, I use the theme background, so I don't have to use FEH or nitrogen or any of those other ones, variety, to do that. I just commented on all the ones I knew they either didn't have or didn't use, or I had in other places. Yeah, for some reason just putting radio up turns on Blueberry. I mean, not Blueberry, but Bluetooth connection. So I guess the way I fire radio on turns on Bluetooth too, and I can connect my Bluetooth speaker to this just as easy as I can anything else. Pretty cool, actually, I think. And so that's what I did there. Now, yeah, I had to comment on all those other ones because they were on this other computer over here, but not over here, my laptop. So I forgot to show you my coffee mug. Yeah, take a quick break here. South Park coffee mug. Not South Park as in the cartoon, but South Park is the city in Colorado. It's actually not a city, but it is city, sort of. It's over by Fairplay, Colorado. At the end of a street that turns and veers right, you have this gate and this thing. And what they did was they had some old buildings from mining days in what used to be a city there called South Park. And this is where my wife and I went on our anniversary trip earlier this year in May. At any rate, they have this picture shows, and then they transported a lot of buildings over to there and all that kind of stuff. So you have this kind of museum that you walk through all these buildings, see all the stuff they have there. Got all sorts of banks and saloons and train and walk through and get in and stuff like that. I have pictures of all that stuff. I'll show you sometime. Yeah. Anyway, that's my coffee mug for the day. Hi Grumpy, how you doing? We've just been talking about Awesome Window Manager. My setup over here, how I adjusted it this past week. Yeah, last week I didn't have much of a special bar up here, just default awesome stuff that came with it. But now I've got all the stuff cooking over here. So that, anyways, how I set up for moving the Arch Linux config files over to here, and it all worked perfectly, pretty well when I first time booted up with it. So yeah. So let's see now. What I wanted to look at is there's like two files you have to use to set these special things up with. There's a file in themes, your theme file, which we'll go look at that right now. And Power Arrow Blue is the one I used. And theme.lu is the one you want to add it into. Alrighty, now if you go down a ways, last week I think I showed you this in here, and I showed you how you set the wallpaper. And you want to make sure this is not coming out, and they comment things out in Lua by putting 2 dashes on a line, and this if you want to come out a whole section. But yeah, like here's a comment here. Anyway, it's one of those themes, I think it's a black theme I had over there. I had to go out and uncomment theme wallpaper out. I was wondering why there's no wallpaper when I did that, tried that, and then there was. You run Sway? Yeah, I did a review on Sway Manager back in my last Manjaro Sway in i3. And anyway, so that's what we got going cooking there. Now you go down this theme for a while, and you get to there's text clock that we're going to change your day, which I got set up like this, so that it looks like that up there. And I think that's what I showed last week, but I've adjusted even more when I change the date around and stuff like that. Now here in the widgets, where this kind of sets the formatting and all that kind of stuff up for the there's functions, or setting up functions here basically of what they're going to call later on when they actually build the bar. And so yeah, these are commented out sections, and I had like this says commented because it needs to be set before use. This is a one that does a mail. It'll tell you how much mail you have, that kind of thing, waiting for you to look at. I don't know how good it works or anything. I haven't tried that one out yet or anything, but I kind of feel like I'm not sure how important that is for me. I use my phone to get most of my mail, and I get all that stuff on there. So yeah. So then you go down here. This is MPD. You can actually control your MPD player. You have MPD, which is a database function for music. It can kind of controls the music on your system. I actually use a client that has MPD on it, but I'm probably just going to stick with just using it the way I've always used it. But it's kind of interesting. Might play with that someday, see how it works, that kind of thing. Anyway, now when you get down here, let's see, this is a memory function here, CPU function here. Those are already set in default configuration of Arco Linux's version of Awesome Window Manager. It's set already with all the stuff set up in it, just to work that way. Now here's the core temp sensors, and yeah, it's what it took me a while to figure out until I finally figured it out today. I've been working on it for 3 or 4 days, off and on, here and there, you know, that kind of thing. And at any rate, I finally figured out how to work it, figured out what I needed. Anyway, yeah, it does report it in Celsius, so I've kept it as Celsius. And then you have this basically gets a temperature of your core. It's a function to get the temperature. Now this also down here, this is one of the things I wasn't sure about, because it had one that had this block of text and it had this blocked off, the core temp down here, and I didn't know what if they should be joined or put together or what, you know. So I decided I was going to put that down there, and I just took this one off first, and so I just had this one uncommented off. This one was still commented, and it kept giving me errors, and it kept having, I had to kick me back to the original awesome configuration file, you know. So finally figured out I need to have all this uncommented apparently. That plus that, and yeah, and all the way down to here. So that was one thing I had to figure out on this. And here's the weather section. I had to uncomment all this stuff too, and because it needs setup. Basically, you go to openweathermap.org, and you can find out what your city's ID is, and you put that in right here. But that's not all you need to do, so I'll talk about that and the rest of it in a minute. But yeah, that's another file of what you need to do. Another file to fix that and get it ready to go. So anyway, that's part of the whole thing there. And there's your battery. And there's a text for doing your net and your volume and separators. Separators are arrows that you see up here. All these arrow looking blue arrows things. Yeah, they have them all down here. Talks about arrow depth and all that kind of thing. And at any rate, so then, yeah, there's a local wallpaper, theme wallpaper. That's where it sets your wallpaper theme. True. And wallpaper. It opens all tags. All tags open with layout 1 is how I have it set, which is the first layout, which is the master stack tiling, because I like that one. So I said I'm just going to leave that as default. I think it's one that comes out default in. But yeah, so that's where you can change that in the theme if you want. Now here's where it starts actually creating the bar up there. It's called a Y bar, WIBOR, OX, my Y box, Y box was called WIBOX. And anyway, this here you can see it uses widgets. It fixes the layout of the tile over here. That's all these buttons up here. And then you have your tag list, your prompt box, and all that kind of stuff. All that means is they'll show prompts up here, tag lists or prompts, and that kind of thing. So then he goes down here, and that's on the left side. It has something for center. I don't see more of my task list. I don't think I had that activated or some upstairs in the function, so it doesn't show anything there. The right widgets is where it adds out all the right widgets. This is if using shapes. I think that's not the power bars, it's just shapes. So that's why all this is coming out. And so we skip on down here a bit. I keep forgetting bringing it down. So you get down to here. And you see this is your Y box widget, volume icon, which is that right there. And that's the icon they have right there. Have these little icons in front of each one. So all these are icons. Then they have theme volume widget. This is the calling of the function that tells you what the volume is on your widgets. And the widget volume. And so if I want to go lower volume on my output, I can hold down the function key and start reducing it down or go back up or whatever. Just like that. So it shows it, it's pretty good. Then you got memory here, CPU, temp, weather icon, battery, net, your clock, and your layout. And that's all the bar there is, and that's all the theme now. Still some other things you have to do to get the other two things working. The weather one and that one. Is first, while you're on this website for weather, one, you want to go to there's something called sys key, S keys that you gotta have. And I didn't realize this till I found it in one of the obscure little Lua files in here that you needed this S key to put in there. So yeah, and when I realized that, I said, oh, luckily I already had an account with these guys, so I'd done used this like years before or something like that. So I had the password in there, so I went and logged in, and I copied my key that I had there, and I put it in. So I'll show you where that's at. Okie dokie. Now you gotta go to back to my awesome directory. Now we're gonna go to Lain, L-A-I-N directory right there. That's where all your widgets and stuff like that are at. So CD. See icon, layout, utilities, widgets. Widgets is one you want. So go to widgets. Widget, not plural. Now here's where you have all your files that the function keys refer to get the information that they need in order to do this thing. So here's the last two, temp and weather, the ones I added down here. So first we'll look at temperature and look at what I did there. Now, the key thing you need to change, if you have to change anything, it might be work out of the box for you just the way it is, set up in there, because it had sys devices, thermal slash thermal 01 or something like that, slash temp or something like that. Anyway, it had this interesting, other than this is even weirder, but yeah. So you can see how I had to figure out where in my system these temperature files were kept. Finally figured it out by doing some Google searching and that kind of thing. When I finally figured it out, that's where my temperature files kept as a temp to input. Now they default to temp stuff over there, and yeah, so it's crazy, isn't it? So excuse me a sec. So yeah, these temp files. Once I figured out where it was and I plugged this in, it worked beautifully. Before that I had crashes, and once I got it figured out, I need to uncomment both sections of those temp functions in there. Then it stopped crashing, but it just had NA up here instead of the actual NA right down there is where I put it. So yeah, I forgot to show you on when I was raw in the other file, but each of these were surrounded by an arrow. So it started out with an arrow here, and it had different color backgrounds for each one. And switched them off, but just like you see here. That's where you get your arrows from, and how they figure that out anyway. Then anyway, let's see. So that's the main thing. You have to figure out where your temperature is. It might be a standard one they said, which was what I mentioned before, but you know it could be somewhere else in your system. It was different on my laptop because I think those you were using the old BIOS type functions or something like that. Anyway, the kernel picks up in a different thing on here and puts in a different file. Don't know why. Why they can't standardize it, I don't know, but yeah. So you have to find out where it's at and plug that in there for the temperature thing to work. So Just try it, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, you can go and find out where your temperature file is and plug it in there. And it should work, theoretically speaking, of course. And so, let's see. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the weather one. And here it says mandatory comment here. Yeah, this is your APPID, which is your key, your S key, I think is what it's called in open weather maps.org. And it's free to sign into this. You can buy things on there, but you don't have to. You can get a key just like this. Have one key, and apparently a lot of people have a lot of keys when they want to have them. So yeah, that's all you need to do is plug in this to get that key there. That key plus the ID helps you or get your weather cooking for you now. You might notice when you log in on here that it's set up for metrics, imperials, and metric settings for Celsius. So if you want Fahrenheit, you got to put imperial in here. Like I have Fahrenheit up here, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Otherwise, it'll come out Celsius by default. So I change that, and let's see, make sure I didn't change something else in here that you need to know about. Now you can change your language here if you want English or other languages. You can stick it there, I think. And yeah, all these are API calls that go to this openweathermap.org site. And it plugs all the information in wherever you see a net. %S, it plugs this information. Now how they figure out which one goes where, I don't know, because they got all this down here and then jumps up here to get the AP key toward the very end. I don't know enough about Lua programming to know how this works, so it works though, at least it did with me. So that's pretty much how I set that part up. Any questions so far in the gallery here? Yeah. Yeah, I really like it because then I can monitor my CPU temperature. And right now it's almost up to 75 degrees. I think it kicks up to a certain level and your fan kicks in and brings it back down, and it just jumps back and forth depending on where your fan's cooking, that kind of thing. And yeah, you have to tell me now. Neptune OS is pretty cool. I have it set up on this. This is Neptune OS I have it set on, and I could reboot, but then I'd have to kill the whole stream if I did. So I kind of like Awesome though for this reason, because in Neptune OS, whenever you move from workspace to workspace, which I've been using workspaces a whole lot more in the last, well, since I started doing this channel basically. But I used to not use workspaces that often. Every once in a while I might use one or something, but not very frequently. Now I use them all the time. And when in Neptune OS, most desktops on it I've always done, they move them together. So like if you have workspace one, it's for upper and lower, or right, left, whatever screens, how many ever screens you might have for it. Yeah, and you move and you scoot it over. And if you go to another workspace, both screens move at the same time in unison, that kind of thing. It's awesome. They move separately. So like you see here, I got this on 2, and I know you can't see it because I can't even see it really totally because because I got it. But anyway, if I showed it to you, Yeah, I've got my OBS running in screen 1 on the bottom of it, while this is running in screen 2 up here, and it didn't change it when I changed it to screen 3. And change the bottom one to screen 5 without changing the top one, it stays put. That's kind of convenient when you want to use OBS and you want to show, I can set up everything I want to do on the top, and then I can move those over as I need to go through it, on my videos and stuff, so I don't have to bring up stuff and then waste all the time recording me doing that type thing. Yeah, don't reboot. Yeah, we don't want to reboot yet. And so yeah, now I would show you the bottom screen, which I could do. I think I have it set up. Let's see. You have to tell me that I'm not looking at my feed right now, so I don't know if it works or not, but the thing. You guys see the lower screen here, which is on workspace 5 over here. And you see, because there's a little dot over here, you can tell there's something running in workspace 1. That's my OBS right there. Assuming OBS doing what I told it to do, you see my lower screen right now on my laptop itself, primary screen. Okay, we'll move back up to the top. Now I should see my upper screen with me a smiling face in the right corner again. And we'll kill this. So that's my awesome window manager desktop setup. I think I pretty much got it pretty much where I want it right now. It's very usable. I like it for the reason, like shifting, you move the workspaces separately type things. What they call them tags, not workspaces properly, but they call them tags, and awesome. Sort of like workspace. Oh, just seeing you, Rick. Oh well, I told you what I was doing anyway. So, oh, that's right. That's because I said, oh, I think I put a different key binding on that. Yeah, let me run over here. And I think I put D for down on that. Yeah, I don't think I have a lower version on this for this settings. That's anyway, yeah. So you know what I did. I just told you what happened anyway. So I guess that'll work for the time being. Yeah. Yeah, they tend to be that way sometimes. And but anyway, I think I like this configuration. I'm using this more than I'm using the KDE desktop on Neptune, so who knows? Maybe this will just stay here. I'll at least give it a shot, see what it works. All this work, don't want to throw all this work away. I remember when I installed Arch Linux the hard way. Yeah, I know it is, isn't it? I saw that first time. And wow, that's cool. I really liked it. Yeah, so yeah. So let's see. Anything other questions or thoughts about this you have before we move on? We've been going for almost an hour. So, is there anything else you want to talk about? Like Neptune OS or anything else going on in your lives or anything? Skynet. Oh yeah, Skynet. Oh, it's got Skynet, huh? Yeah, I'll just go back to my head, I guess. For the time being, you can see my big fat face in front of you. Yeah, let's see. Seems like there's something else I was thinking about I wanted to go over if I had time. Oh, I remember what I was saying, workflows. We're talking about workflows. Well, maybe, because part of workflows are programs too. What programs work for you mostly? A lot of people use Kdenlive to edit their videos and things like that. But the workflow for me didn't work too hot on it. Some people like it and some people use it very efficiently, I know, but yeah. Yeah, it's just something to play with and test out. Meanwhile, you can stay on the desktop and KD and enjoy that. Work and seeing at my garage lately. Cleaning out your garage. Yeah, I've been so busy with work and cleaning. Yeah, it's like I really tried to get 2 videos out this week for the FEWM window manager, and I also was home to get Irby out. I call it Irby because I don't want to call it Irby for that big long name they have for that window manager. It's pretty nice, I think. I briefly looked at it and I haven't really put it all together yet and researched enough to do a whole video on it yet, but yeah, it looks pretty nice. It's kind of i3-ish in the way it's set up. Yeah, that's one thing on this. You can hide your Y bar, as they call it, by pressing Shift W. It's going bye bye. Oh, you don't see that yet, do you? I'll show it to you real quick. No Y bar. Y bar, no Y bar. Y bar, no Y bar. So, yeah. Yeah, I've used Audacity back in my podcast days. I used to use that quite a bit. And I've used a time or two to edit some stuff. I found out you can you can extract audio out of a video file using Audacity. Just load it in like you would any other file. But all that's left is just, of course, Audacity can't show video, so all it shows is the sound. And you can save it and edit it if you want to edit it and save it, that kind of thing. I found out that just not too long ago, actually, about a year or two ago, I figured that out and said, hey, this works. So some people probably already knew that. I mean, yeah, you can go online and find all sorts of information like that. Yeah, Sway hides it if you set the mode to hide. And then when you press the Windows Super whatever, we'll call it key. It shows it. Yeah, this is you hit the super whatever you call it key and the W on this, it'll toggle your Y bar on and off just like that. So if you want more space for some odd reason, you can take that little thin strip off there and hide it away. But it's got some interesting information on here. One of the things I was telling Peter about earlier is that I'm going to try to see if I can put Zoom on here, but I wasn't sure if my internet settings would, my internet connection speed would be adequate. So I can I'm going to run a test Wednesday with my son, Jeremy, who lives in San Antonio. I'm going to stream this for a period of time on Wednesday afternoon, probably evening for you. But anyway, yeah, so we're just going to test it out and see if it works or not, if my system can handle it. I think my CPU's good, so it might be right now at 80, right now about, I don't know what the average is, but it's probably about 40–50%, jumping around between 260, 80, kind of cycling between 30 some and 80% or so. So yeah, whenever I move things around, it probably activates it more, something like that anyway. But the thing is, generally on the internet connection, I have I got 600 maximum upload ability. I tested out on one of those things where you can test out your internet speed process, and I think download speed won't be any problem, but upload speed is what I'm concerned about. So yeah, it's about half of what the max set out. So I'm thinking the other half might be Zoom. It might make it too. It's gonna be on the edge probably. CPU might be too hard. It might get too hot and throttle back or something like that. We'll find out how it works and we'll do that. So at any rate, let's see. Oh yeah, so part of your workflow depends on your programs you use, and we find one that you particularly like now. I've gotten pretty good using Shortcut Editor to edit my videos. I've been using it for a while now. And I even did that animation with the subscribe button thing that flies across the screen on my videos. And figured out how to do that shortcut with keyframe animations. That's pretty cool. And yeah. But I've gotten where well, I'll show you a brief edit session. I won't show the whole thing because it takes forever to edit one of these videos half the time, but yeah, I'll show you what I got here. Let's see, so shortcut. And Arco Linux. There's a subscribe button. Just to import that as a clip. I need to. Here's one is to spend it forever editing. It took me forever to edit this thing for some reason. About over 3 or 4 days of just nitpicking at it. Partly because I was busy doing a lot of other things too, you know how that goes, yeah. And yeah, I'm maxing this out now. This 96 CPU. I don't know how it's going to work. Anyway, here's where I import my subscribe button over this part. Anyway, just play it. Greetings and salutations, Rick Shuffle. I'm not going to turn on the desktop sound. You can probably hear it over the microphone though. Manager for Marco Linux. Go with that sharpness for. Yeah, it's usually a lot smoother than this because, of course, I got CPU maxed out up here, 83%. So, yeah, that's part of the issue there. But anyway, if I wanted to say I want to take this part out here, this little section, because I wanted to for some reason, then where I just position this, I can use that. Or I think you can hold down Shift key and take border spaces. Or you can just go down here and click it. Anyway, when you got this playhead right where you want it, just hit this button. It creates a division there. And you click on this, and I created a division. Oh, I got it up here, so it's created a division there. I want that. Okay. hit this again. There, cut that in half. You click on this to mark it, and then you just hit X. It goes away. And then I go back over here to see if what I did makes sense, you know. Mark the limits. They didn't come up with the limit manager, but that kind of thing. That's an example of what I've done. Sitting here listening on what I was listening. Grabbing something to eat. Yeah, do eat. Especially since it's late in the evening for you. Yeah, it's like 5 o'clock here right now. My wife gets off at 9 o'clock, so I got plenty of time to eat. Or I gotta fix her something to eat when she gets here, that kind of thing. So that's how I do that. And if I wanted to put in some like, if I don't want to do this too much because it's maxing out my CPU, I think. Anyway, I have clips here. I can import this with a clip. You can open up those as clips. This is the subscribe button that I did. Double click on this, will show you what happens. Just like that. Yeah, I kind of did that by accident, how it came out, but I had a plan in mind, sort of worked the way I wanted to, but not quite. It flying around in weird ways out here, where it stopped here and did what I wanted to do. Anyway, I thought, well, that was kind of cool, so I kept it and just went with it. I tried to mess with it for a while. So, yeah, shortcut works pretty good, and I've done some interesting things with it. Maybe we'll close this out since I don't want to say my changes. Yeah, so I did a floating window manager, virtual window manager. It's called floating virtual window manager. And I still need to do Herbie. And then I got what I'm going to do next. I'm going to install Arca Linux on this desktop over here. And I'm going to test out my rest of my window managers over on this computer. Now I'll do OBS from over there. And I've done that before. Works as long as I have all the settings correct over there. I have over here. Or I might just throw it all back in Virtual Window Manager up here again. Kind of convenient. It's one way because then I usually have to copy this video file from over here over to my main computer where I put everything. Then I have to merge them together, which is not hard to do, but then 3 or 4 merges. Matter of fact, I noticed one of them, I can't remember just which one it was CWM or DWM, but one of those videos I actually forgot my cap for part of the video because I realized I needed to add in some, and so I went and put a slice of, I sliced it and I inserted my video in there, and then I realized after the fact that I forgot my cap, and so all of a sudden my cap was gone and this comes back. And it's like, what are you gonna do? So I thought, well, I'll just go with it. Be one of those things people talk about sometimes on their videos, you know, the bonus videos you get on, well, like on Lord of the Rings. They're talking about all the stuff they did that was obviously wrong, like the flag and over the one is flying backwards, flapping backwards in the wind because they had to reverse the video in order to make it look right or something. Yeah. Wrapped a slice of calzone with a brewed Elvis juice BPA. Brewdog Elvis, huh? Elvis juice. IPA. Yeah, I was going to mention we have some Colorado native IPAs here. And this one guy at our church, he actually works for Coors. So he has a lot of extra beers that he sometimes brings along to events and stuff like that. It's nice. Yeah, I haven't drank a lot of beer lately, but I usually get a little small glass of whiskey or something every night just to help me go to sleep, that kind of thing. Yeah, video continuity is hard, I agree. Most of the time I'm doing pretty good, but of course you chop out all the pieces, so sometimes you're going back and forth, all that kind of stuff. Especially as much as I edit my videos. When one comes out perfectly, I go, wow, you can't even tell I edited it, but most of them, they're like, you can tell if you look at it and you're examining it very hard. Super pizza with happy beer, yay! Hey, we actually have a guy at our work. I work at Sam's Club. My wife does too, as well as my son. Kind of like a family deal, I guess, for us. Anyway, we have a guy who works in I'm not sure the same guy. We have a guy who works in the cooler there who goes by Grumpy as well. And sometimes he is grumpy, but most of the time he's pretty nice actually. Bit of hat to Grumpies everywhere. Yeah, let's see what else happened this week. Oh yeah, I know something I was going to talk about. I don't have anything to show for it right now, but I actually installed Pop! OS on my son's gaming computer in there because his Windows kept freezing on him. I investigated and did some research on it. It's one of the things that kept me busy while I didn't really get another video put out this week. Because I did some research on it and found out there was all these things that could be causing it. Thought, well, the only way, because he works full time at Sam's. I just work part time 2 days a week. But anyway, he works full time at Sam's, and he says, yeah, yeah. So you basically, he's only here in the evenings and the night and early mornings. So like they both get off at 9 o'clock, so he comes in late. Usually goes there and plays games and stuff on his computer and his guitar and all that kind of stuff. He likes to do that kind of thing. So made a dwarf fruit based on 7 dwarves. Your healer named Grumpy because Grumpy was taken. Oh, I see. Grumpy instead of Grumpy. I've used it ever since. Yeah, and I actually replaced Windows because I didn't want him to. He's not sure about it, but I thought I did a dual boot on it. He actually had a whole hard drive in the system with not being used, so I put Linux Pop! OS on that one. Then I put Windows one. I just left that there. Then I had to figure out how to merge them, so I moved the Pop! OS disk to boot up before the Windows disk, and then I was able to edit grub files so that it had Windows in there too. So yeah, it's actually I think I use System D for booting up, so it's interesting to learn about that a bit more, how to do that. Yeah, you have to go to a certain file called loader dot config, I think. CONF, if I remember correctly. My mind may be a little weak on that. And then I put a time in there, and then it puts up, it just shows you like a grub-like menu. Yeah, that's what I had to do is to get Windows in there because that's how I started out. I kind of booted Dell and Bluetooth with Windows, and then after a period of time, I realized I hated getting on Windows because almost always had updates, and the updates took forever to process and that kind of thing. So getting on there was like a pain and a half. Plus, it was before SSDs, And if you remember anything about booting up on Windows and hi Steve, peace, love you. Yeah. So anyway, if you have a boot up on that kind of thing, then yeah. Where's I going with that? I don't remember. Anyway, yeah. Hope you had a good stream this morning, Steve. I haven't actually had a chance to watch it, even though I usually have by now, but haven't had a chance to actually catch up on it and see what happened and all that good stuff. But hopefully, you had a good stream this morning. Didn't have any trolls or anything like that, or you didn't have your power go out or anything, or router kick off on you, all those kind of things. Yeah. So anyway, what was I talking about? I don't remember now. Master Disaster of Streams. Yeah, hopefully I'm gonna. Yeah, we were showing my Linux desktop. I'll just quickly show it to you. What changes I made since last week. They're actually fairly substantial. It's more Arco Linux looking themes right now. Anyway, yeah, I got this bar up here, power bar. Also added to it, which took a little work, was a uh, CPU up here, and the weather over here. Yeah, but it works really good, I think. These aren't on by default in Arch Linux. They're commented out in the file, but yeah, I was able to get those working with a lot of struggle and research and figuring things out and figuring what I needed to do, that kind of thing. Boy, but I got it cooking. Yeah, it's like one time I had Arch Linux. I think I was going to say, but I didn't finish. That I had Arch Linux on there, and yeah, yeah. I built Arch Linux and I installed it and I did all the stuff. I did it the hard way too, by command line, the quote hard way. It's really not too hard once you know what you're doing, but it takes even the good as the Arch wiki instructions are on it. Even there's some ambiguity about it that is a little different. Anyway, yeah. But once I got it cooking on it, I just thought, wow, this is cool. I got Arch Linux cooking on my machine. Then I erased it and did put another Linux on there and did all that. So I kind of felt bad. I really didn't want to do it because I took all that work, but it could just perfect. I had installed Cinnamon Desktop on it and got that to working finally. And yeah, yeah, show as long as it doesn't affect service. Zoom, cool, yeah. We're gonna zoom, hopefully. And yeah, I'll test out my son. We're going to. That's one of the advantages of having this. I have this upload and download speeds here, so I can test out to make sure I'm not maxing out my internet when he's on it. And I have my CPU over here. I have my CPU temperature over here. It worries me a little bit. It's already running sort of high, so I'm afraid that having zoom on there might be too much for it. We'll know Wednesday if it works or not. Yeah, if the CPU's on this, then I have to wait till I get a better CPU on that computer, I guess, or get a new computer or something like that. I've always got all these cheap computers. It's like this computer over here, which is my testing computer, is kind of that I'm looking at all my comments on, by the way, is was about $186, I want to say, something like that. And then the one in the living room, which is a little more powerful, a little bit better in some ways. Oh, this has a micro S, not a micro S, SSD card reader on it. The other one doesn't. I have to use this kind of well, I got it right here. I actually got it cooking on this laptop X first. This USB where you put the SD card in here, and you can read them on computers that don't have micro SD or SD card readers. Yeah. So I forgot where I was going with that too. Yeah, I'm forgetful lately, it seems like. And you never know. Yeah. Yeah, this is actually from what's the company name? I think I got refurbished computers from. I know the name of this place. I can't think of it all of a sudden. My mind, sometimes I wonder about it. And probably over with Lee Keen's mind somewhere. Anyway, yeah. So, what was I thinking about there? Same computers. Oh yeah, it actually is from let's see. It's on top of my brain. I almost think about it and grab it. Well, it's one of those online places, online stores. It's a computer store basically. I've gotten a lot of computers from there over the years, and so it's one in Sam's Club. Sam's Club doesn't sell cheap computers like this. You're in and pay almost full price or more for Sam's Club computer deals. As I've discovered, most of the good deals are cheaper computers there are just Chromebooks and stuff like that. Chromebooks. Which Chrome's a good system if you want to. My wife has a Chromebook. Actually, it's now my grandson who uses it, and I had to replace the battery in it because it didn't keep a charge anymore, and I had to replace the battery cable in it because he's tough on cables apparently. And every time he comes over here, he uses my Surface Pro. I have to get all this. He always leaves it with a cable bent on it and pulling down on it. So I always have to reset it and stuff like that. So that's why his cables always get screwed up because he stresses them out, I think. He's got autism worse than my son does, actually. So, he had his computer built for him by specs by a company. Magic Micro. Oh yeah, Magic Micros. That microcomputer you're talking about? And there's like they have those at Sam's Club actually up in the employee room where you have to use them. They're about yay big, kind of like that, and they work pretty well. I mean, they're a little slow, not the most powerful thing you can get, but it does for what you need it for there. I guess it works pretty good. It's probably cheaper computers, like brand new, probably 200 or 300 most of the time. Not counting the monitors, because monitors are a little bit better quality, obviously. At any rate, yeah, one of them doesn't have a connection to the internet, and they can't seem to fix it. At least they never have, and I can't get into it to fix it myself, since they have proprietary software on there. They kind of keep it locked down, kind of thing. And yeah, my son had built his own computer from scratch. Says it was an interesting experience, but won't do it again, probably. He's just going to buy a pre-built, that kind of thing. Which, if you want a good CPU, GPU, it's easier to get it that way than to try and buy a GPU off the market. Unless you go to the black market or something like that. Anyway, the computers that they have in the employee's break room are like mini micro things, but they aren't very great. They're okay for what they do, but yeah. One of them has a broken off thing in the audio jack, so you can't really listen to anything on it. They don't have speakers built into it, they just have headphones you plug into it and plug it into that one. I went up there one time and it was plugged in the microphone jack. I was wondering why I couldn't hear anything until I figured out by looking at the other one. There's three of them up there. I figured out that the other one had a piece in where it's supposed to go. So yeah, let's see, workflows, yeah. So that's my workflow on my editing on my videos. Miss that, you have to look back over it to see what I did with that, Steve. And I don't know if I have anything else. If anybody has any questions or thoughts, even if it's not related to what we discussed today, fire away. Otherwise, I'll sit here and chat for a little longer. We got another 30 minutes or so before I try to end the stream. So if I have something to talk about or chat about or whatever, I'm all ears or I'm all eyes. Case may be. Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten cheap computers there, but I'm trying to say if I actually like this one framework.com has a modular laptop. The base price for it starts to say if you build your own, you start to $700 and some and you add whatever you want on to it. Like you can get a CPU of i7s and or AMD 7s and that kind of thing. I need to do projects. Yeah. My wife doesn't keep me too busy, but sometimes I have to do some stuff like take care of the grandkids, that kind of thing. It isn't too hard usually. It's pretty nice. And back in the day, I would have hated that because I was always really guarded about my writing time. Back in 2010, probably around there, the height of my output. So yeah, I didn't like being interrupted. This weekend, need to water spray down the back porch before I build tables and chairs that we picked up from Home Depot today. Cool. Yeah, the like pressure wash type thing, or just kind of spray water on it best you can, or something like that. Because I have a pressure washer. Of course, it's quite a trip to come and get it and use it, but I'm sure it'd be cheaper for you to rent one if you needed one of those. Go have one. Or yeah, I used it for my back in the day when before I moved to Colorado. I was a window cleaner and pressure washer person. I can pressure wash things, that kind of thing. I'll chat for a minute. I think I need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Yahoo. See. Yeah. I actually have a video back earlier in the year. I think it's actually back in November, December of last year, where I have a newbie wife install Sparky Linux on my computer. I kind of wanted to dispel the notion that it's hard to install Linux versions on computers. So I just stuck it on there. I only gave her instructions, minimal instructions on how to do it. But I just plugged it. I did the USB for her. I plugged the USB in and said install the sucker. So she installed it. She did pretty good though, actually. But she said before that she never even messed with Linux at all. She knew nothing about it hardly. Yeah. Her whole context is I want something that I can boot up and web browser and Facebook and watch YouTube videos, that kind of thing. That's all she cares about pretty much for my computer. I always use one out in the living room for anyway, so works good for that. Let's see. Out there I got Pop! OS installed on here. Now Peter's installed Neptune OS. I've used that for a while now. I had it installed on my computer. I think I showed it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. What I have on my system as far as that goes. And yeah, it's awesome. It looks pretty good though. I really like it a lot. The more I use it, more I get it tuned up the way I want it, the more I like it too. So as well move myself back to here. And yeah. Hi home. Alright. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think SAT is what I use mostly on my external hard drives, which is 2 TB too. I had 2 separate partitions on it. One's a backup from my system, the other's a backup of my home directory. But I do need to do that pretty soon. So I'll see if I can do that now. I'll just show you that. One of the things I was going to do probably on a future podcast is go over my script files. I'll show you those real quick to see if you think it'd be interesting to look at. I know Peter mentioned last week or the week before that he likes script files or looking at them or something like that. So yeah, script files. I keep all mine in my bin directory. There's LR. See if I gotta move myself out of the way here. Wrong thing. There I am. There's all my script files. Some of these are junk files. I didn't really do much with some. I think I have one in here that testing somewhere. Intro. The intro SH what I use these for my intro SH file. I've shown that on my thing before. Create a few ISO to USB launchers using DD, that kind of thing. I got a fixed network manager one here. I got some, like this is like my EPUB, which is for updating my EO package manager for Solus. I was working on that for a while. And Dropbox, of course you got that. Here's my distro. I think I have this on my website. Right there, that DAD ISO to USB. As well as I got this app image install file, which installs it to your app images to your menu type thing. There are a lot of stuff. I got a lot of these old basically thing. The ones I use mostly is copy home right there, and I use restore home right here. This one I have a CPM copy home. Okay, there's no CPM. Let's see. CPH. Okay, that's what I'm doing wrong. I use RS to back up all my files like this. Those are all the files that changed since last time we ran a backup, and then I'll save it to the home directory of my, not the home directory, but it all saves it to file partition over there. So it has, if I have a file I need to get, I can just go there and pull over, just copy the file back over or something like that. I don't even use a backup function on RC, simply because that way I have all the files easily accessible. I have it done pretty much. You love CPM? CPM, Com Window Manager? Oh, CPM, program, yeah. Yeah, I meant to say CPH. Yeah. And that just is an alias uh, for running that copy home function. It copies all my files from home. So it all goes to one partition on my external hard drive, and the other partition contains all my system files. I back up using timeshift. I think it's called timeshift, something like that. Yeah. So 8-bit OS. Oh, CPM, the programming language is OS system. I actually used that before. My mom drove K-Pro back in the day. I may have mentioned that before, but she had an old K-Pro with the lid that popped off the top, and it had a keyboard on it, and you had this little screen about yay big on there. This little green screen type thing. And it had CPM on it. That was the first introduction to using command line languages, CPM. And yeah, you had to run everything on there. Now, for a long time, I used DOS. After I used digital command language on at work, I worked for a gas measurement company for a while. They had a server there, which I kind of took care of a bit, learned it. Sometimes I had to spend all night there trying to figure things out. Like this one time, they wanted to be able to tape backups from. They had these backups that they ran off of the accounting computer, which is on a totally different system. I don't remember what it was called, but it was some totally little system nobody's ever heard of type thing. And and uh, and they anyway they took all the files from that, and they put them on a tape there, and then you had to transfer the files on the tape to a different format on the other file, on the main computer on there where all the other files were stored at. So yeah, it's kind of weird. Anyway, I sat there all night and I'd worked until they started arriving at 6 in the morning. Worked all night on that, figuring out how to transfer that files over. But I figured it out and got her done. That's what they like. My folks own an Amstead PCW8512-2 disk drive running CPMM. Came with the monitor and printer. Cheap and effective business system. Yeah. Yeah, I'll bet. Now, the interesting thing is that my first computer that I owned was one my mom bought me, which was, I think I mentioned this before too, but is my TI-994A computer. Back in 80 something, 84 I think, or 83, somewhere in there. And that's how I first learned basic programming on that. They had a whole 16K, 16 byte, 16K memory. Yeah, big, powerful computer. I think it had like 4 kilobytes of computing power on there or something like that. Anyway, I typed up this one program for using Yahtzee to play Yahtzee on, and the routine on it was I had to, whenever I had a large straight or small straight, I had to hit a button to score it and register a score. And the way I checked it was it went through loops to tell whether it was actually a real straight or not, a long straight. Long straight, especially you hit the button, you go get a cup of coffee, go to the bathroom, come back, and finally was able to sit there and then be registered by then, because it took a break whenever you hit that button, because it went through a 5 nested loop and it took forever for it to go through, like about 5-10 minutes, something like that. Took a while. That tells you how fast and speedy that computer was, huh? Now it'd just be like, you wouldn't be able to tell any difference between that and a 1 nested loop or something like that, you know. But anyway, digital commanding was actually pretty versatile. It's still, I think, more versatile back in the 80s than Bash is today. Bash is pretty versatile, I say that for you, but digital command language, you could do backflips. You could parse anything you wanted to parse using syntax that is similar to the basic. So it's Oric 1, 16K RAM, just like mine. The 48K RAM. I bet you all using Hog Heaven, huh? It's like the first real computer I ever bought for myself. I think I bought it in 1992 or 3 or something like that. 90 or 8. Yeah, it was being 1990, 91, somewhere in there, on my first computer when I was in seminary. And because I was realizing how difficult it was to get good grades if you didn't have a computer. Because by then they almost expect you to have a computer. You use it if you wanted to be efficient. They timed everything as if you had a computer. So typing on a manual typewriter, which is what I had at the time, was slow as molasses. And of course, TI-994A didn't have any printer stuff and all that kind of stuff, things like that. So even if I had at that point, which I don't remember if I did or not. So I got my first computer and it had 20 megs of disk space on it. Woohoo! Yeah, still going in it. Well, I guess I've done a lot of stuff since I've done that. Anyway, I thought 20 megs of disk space. Yeah, I got all this room. I saw WordPerfect Office on there, and suddenly I had like 5 megs left or something like that. but I was able to do reports better that way, and I had that computer for quite a while. The first pass through I used it, second pass through I used it, and I finally got my first laptop in there, and that's my first Windows. Up till then, I always used DOS for everything. I was DOS master at the time. And I didn't want Windows, and I didn't want those stinking Windows because I didn't want those GUI things slowing me down, So I was used to the terminal and typing on there to get programs started, that kind of thing. So, yeah, when I came to Linux and they had a terminal, I said, woohoo! Yeah, it's simple. So, I've gotten into that part of it pretty easy. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, so I'm thinking maybe anything you want to talk about, any future programs you want to talk about stuff, just let me know. I'll accommodate you. We went from a Commodore 64 to a U, either the UIK-44. Now, see, that's part of the thing. I kind of remember like on the digital computer I used to work on. I kind of remember it's RS-12, I think. I'm not dead sure about all this, and may have my numbers wrong on that. RS-11, no, it's RS-11. See, 11, not 12. I wouldn't remember all that stuff. But of course, if you use it for a while and it's your own computer, it'll probably be a little more stored in your memory than computers at work and stuff like that. We had the little VT terminals with tubes about that deep, and, that kind of thing. Join the Navy. Backs, yep, backs. That's pretty much what it was, backs. Yeah, the RS-11, and it had some other nomenclature too. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it's actually a pretty good little system. It's kind of a mini server is what they call it. So it wasn't like a big bank server like they used to run. They used backs at college, yeah. Yeah, so that's why one of the places I really got good at basic and stuff like that, because they had two basics on there that they used. It's kind of interesting because this guy, they did gas measurement, obviously. So they have these charts they get on gas measurement charts. They have all these lines on them. And when I started out there, I started out doing integrating, what they call integrating. That's where you put it on this big record-like thing. The chart is circular. Then you have these levers that move these pins on it. You trace the lines on the chart using pins, and you get pretty good at it. And then hey, it's been a shade. Yeah, so then you get good at it, and you trace the lines, and then you stamp it, and it stamps the numbers on the back. Take those numbers, plug them into the computer, which is the second part of the job I had there once I got that far into it. And data entry, so I got good at Tinky there. I used to do Tinky real good. Now my hands don't work as good as they used to. So, yeah. And then this ran through all these programs that did calculations on them to come up with how much gas flew through this disc with a hole in it, depending on the size of the hole and how forceful it was going through how much pressure was on one side of the hole. They calculate how much gas flowed through there using those charts. That's what we did. We did all the calculations. Then I had to go in when the company got bought out by another company, and I stayed. Probably should have gone with the guys, but I stayed anyway because I got convinced that I should, so I did. And at any rate, yeah, yeah. So I stayed in the guy that wrote the program for all the calculations and stuff, he was voting more for job security than anything because he didn't want it to be easy for anybody else to figure out what he's working on. So all the variables are just X and Y's and Z's. Nothing documented, no comments, no nothing in there. And so one of the first tasks I was given was to go through that program, figure out where everything was. I figured out where the X, I traced the X variable all through the program, figured out what it did, what it was, and I commented, so I know what it did, that kind of thing. And you just make up variables as you went. There'll be all sorts of variables in there, nothing defined, and nothing commented or nothing, no central location where you could list all the variables and what they did and all that stuff, nothing like that. That took a long time to figure all that out, but I finally did, and I got to where I fiddle with it pretty easy. I actually got to the point where I could add super compressibility factors in advanced ones, and because as the air flows through that hole, the turbulence that it creates as it flows through the hole, faster it flows, more turbulence it creates, and so it restricts how much gas you get through the hole. It's easy. So I added a factor in for counting for that. It didn't make a whole ton of difference, but it made a little bit of difference. Yeah. So that's what I did on that, and that was my first job as a computer person. And I got to where I could do pretty good with it and that kind of thing until I moved off to go to college. No, to go to seminary. Yeah. All those days back then. Then that's when I got into DOS, and DOS is so much more restricted than digital command language anyway. It's like, so it's supposed to tell me whether I'm overwriting another file if I want to copy a file from their old DOS 4 point. Didn't do that. And I think they changed it in 5.0 if I remember correctly. I think it's 5.0, DOS 5.0. Where they changed it to where it would tell you, hey, there's another file here with the same name. You want to copy over it or what? Before that, it would just erase it. It'd just copy over it. You wouldn't even know. You'd just copy over another file unless you. So you always had to look, make sure before you copy a file over, it wasn't already a file with that name on it. Otherwise, you're dead. IBM 186. Yeah, and I also had a guy who was programming machine language. So he did regularly. He used little cards they punch and put in there. That was his early programming days. He was an actual real programmer though, because he could program in all sorts of languages. I look at Lua, I can hack on a Lua file, but I couldn't just open up something and start typing Lua code into it. I don't know anything about Lua, except for what little I've learned to know hacking on it. That kind of thing. But I know enough about how programming languages generally work that I can figure out most of the time what's going on in them, most of the time. Bit of the time. And I've got some PHP programming. I've done that before a good bit. I actually got a website that is created not with a database, but with directories and files and certain things. So I've set my file system. It's not all I have to do is I have to copy a file like a PDF or something, pop it in, and it automatically shows up in the menu, and people can look at it, that kind of thing. That's my design on that. You create a whole menu file system just based on where you put it in your directories. And yeah. Well, we're approaching 2 hours here, pretty close to it. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add or say or ask or whatever. Yeah. Workflow is pretty interesting in Linux. So I think the cool thing about Linux over Windows is that you have lots of options. It's also one of the negative things about it, for the newbies especially. But for somebody that's advanced or something like that, it's ideal because you have all these options. You can plug anything, like you can take Neptune OS, you can make it a window manager and just use it totally different, like I am on here and like Peter is on his. Put awesome on it, you put it in the window manager you want on there. And you know what you're doing. Make it do what you want to do. You may do backflips half the time, you know. Some of them are a little more restrictive, like BSPM that uses Bash. BSPWM, excuse me, uses Bash for its scripting language. So yeah, it's a little more. They only do so much of that, but you have to have other programs, third-party patches and stuff to make it work right. Like you have to use SXHKD to put key bindings in there, because unless you create your own separate program for it, no way to do key bindings in Bash, you know. Suppose you do a bunch of aliases or something like that, maybe. Then it's still not a key binding. You'd have to use one of the mapping programs to key bindings. That might be a little hard. You think it's confusing doing this, so they opted Aqualinks opted to use SXHKD for that purpose, and works pretty good on that front. So yeah, so tell you what, if you have any ideas of what you want to look at, talk about, that kind of thing, well, if it's scripts or things, let me know in the comments later on. If you think, oh, I know what I want Rick to talk about, put it in a comment or contact me however you can, and Facebook or that kind of thing. I'll see if I can work it in. Right now I'm just deciding what I'm going to do. I don't have a whole long list of ideas for future discussions yet, so yeah, we'll just do whatever I come up with. Otherwise, we'll discuss things, and that's how we'll work it now. I mean, I really like community. I like talking with people and stuff like that about stuff like this, so it's pretty nice. Appreciate everybody being here. Grumpy, Peter, and Steve, I think, are the three that are here today. And we'll have more as we go along. Hope you've been able to hear me, what I've been saying and talking about most of the time. I know if I start focusing on other things, I start not paying attention to how loud I'm talking. That's when it has things going like that. Yeah, you should, Peter. Thanks, Peter, and everybody for showing up. I guess we'll close it down now because we're coming up 2 hours. Till next time, may the Linux Force be with you. I'll hold on for a minute while everybody says their goodbyes and all their dear partings and all that. Of course, the chat will stay open for a little while, even if I close down the stream. So, later. Bye.